Borders everywhere are dangerous. I have to be careful. I have to be on my toes to live here.
When they're crossing the border without documents, they're breaking the law. But we just don't think it should be punishable by death.
The immigrants are the most important part of our community, honestly, especially in these border towns.
Hello and welcome to American Views, France 24's special coverage in the lead up to the 2020 U.S. presidential election. We're going to take you on a road trip to 6 key swing states that will be critical in determining who ends up in the White House. And in this show, we're going to focus on the southwestern state of Arizona, the nation's newest battleground state. Once a strong conservative bastion, the Grand Canyon state is now up for grabs. And this is due in part to changing demographics with the influx of new residents from more liberal places like California. But there's also a massive backlash against President Donald Trump from white suburban women, but especially young voting-age Latinos who have gotten mobilized. Here's some other key things to know about this fast-changing state.
Situated to the west of the United States, Arizona has California as its neighbor on one side and Mexico to its south. The Grand Canyon is its best-known landmark. It's the 6th largest U.S. state by area. Arizona has a population of 7 million, and it's worth 11 electoral college votes, making it an important win in the fight for the White House. 3/5 of the population is based in and around the state's capital, Phoenix. Arizona is a red state, red like its copper mines, and red like the Republican Party that it tends to vote for in elections. So why is Arizona a swing state? Historically, it hasn't been. Since 1952, the state has voted Republican, with one exception in 1996 when Bill Clinton came out on top. But in 2020, Arizona is for the Democrats' taking. Arizona's population has increased 7-fold since the Second World War. Many of the new arrivals are immigrants, mostly coming from Mexico. A lot of these new arrivals now have American citizenship. Latino voters tend to vote Democrat, so this new demographic could swing Arizona to the left.
There's a 600-kilometer border that runs between Arizona and Mexico, and that means that illegal immigration is a hot topic in the state. It's also been a signature issue for Donald Trump. Remember, his campaign in 2016 was largely based on a promise to build a wall between Mexico and the United States to stop what he calls criminals coming into the country to steal American jobs. Now, polls suggest that these days immigration isn't a burning issue nationally. It's been somewhat eclipsed by the coronavirus pandemic and its economic fallout. But for locals here in Tucson, Arizona, it's still a key preoccupation.
I mean, I don't believe in a wall. I don't believe in borders. I don't think that you should lock kids up or separate kids from parents. So I think there needs to be a lot of change on the immigration policy.
If you're building a wall against like sexual abusers or drug pushers, then I think it's a good idea. But for legal immigrants, that should be not a problem.
Immigration is never bad. Why are we all here? We all immigrants.
During Donald Trump's presidency, illegal immigration has grabbed headlines nationally. But what is it like for locals living on the border? Our reporters Loïc Piala and Alyssa Caverly went to find out.
Good girls. Let's get some more chicken shots. Come on.
For the most part, Melissa Owens lives a peaceful life.
Come on.
Her ranch is near the Mexican-American border, but far from pretty much everything else. And that isolation makes her more alert to the possible dangers.
Borders everywhere are dangerous. I have to be careful. I have to be on my toes to live here. But, well, it looks pretty peaceful to me today.
She doesn't always live in isolation, though. Melissa regularly sees migrants crossing her property, coming in from Mexico. She is armed to protect herself and will call Border Patrol when necessary, but still doesn't understand the point of a wall through her rural land.
No one wants a safe, secure border more than I, because I live here. But the answer isn't a barrier, and we need to be building bridges and working with people there.
Just an hour and a half east of Melissa's ranch, the town of Nogales has a very different border experience.
It's really the most unique city for me along the 2,000 miles of the US-Mexico border, because literally you have one town that's split down the middle with the wall.
Alex Lapierre works for the nonprofit Border Community Alliance and has always maintained a good relationship with his Mexican neighbors, including an important economic one.
Billions of dollars worth of Mexican produce crosses here in Nogales.
He says the reality is nothing like the perception.
It seems like in the United States, the further away you are from the border, the bigger the myth of the border is. A lot of people think that this area is like a war zone. They think there's landmines, everyone has M16s.
But that economic relationship has been further threatened because of COVID-19. Stores like Evan Corey's are feeling the impact.
Non-essential travel is just banned. When that happens, the majority, 95% of our customer base is stopped from coming to shop.
The main street used to run directly between the two countries, but the government has been gradually adding more and more of a separation. In 2018, President Trump strengthened the barrier even more by adding barbed wire to the wall that already existed.
Yeah, the wire is, we kind of have to force ourselves to ignore it because it's just too depressing to think about what it symbolizes. Everyone from Nogales that grew up here has family on both sides of the border, so to stay on one side is completely unnatural for us here.
Last year, an art gallery opened just a few feet from the wall to add some beauty to the area, a form of resistance for the people of Nogales who do not want a wall through their town.
We're about 40 kilometers north of Sasabay along the Mexican border in a desert area where thousands of migrants come through each year. And I'm here with Bob Feynman, the vice chairperson of Humane Borders, a nonprofit organization that provides water for these migrants trying to come to the United States. What motivates you? Why are you doing this?
I think it's a combination of my family history and what I learned in history class here in the United States as a child. I'm only a second generation American. I'm Jewish. My grandparents left Europe. They got out of Dodge, as we would say, just in time. They came to Ellis Island to make what was left of their lives better, but more importantly for future generations. I look at that and I look at people that just want to go from where they were, which they didn't think was the right place to be, to where they want to be, which many times was here in the United States. I look at my family, I look at people that are crossing the border, and I see one difference, which is the name of the country that we're from. The United States is a country of immigrants. The Statue of Liberty is there, welcoming people that want to make their lives better. That's the part of the history teaching in school that I learned. And I look at the fact I'm an hour away from the Mexican border, living in Tucson, Arizona, and I have the time and I speak Spanish. I can't sit still. It's just something that I am motivated to do with all my heart.
So we're here along the U.S.-Mexican border, which is separated by a wall that's continuing to be built. We can hear the construction in the background. This was a campaign promise by Donald Trump when he ran for president 4 years ago to build a wall. How have things changed since he was elected?
Well, there's more wall. There's more wall between the different ports of entry where there used to be none. The wall is higher, and the wall is more fortified with barbed wire. It's become a priority. You can hear and you can see the construction going on. This is all part of what the new administration, or I should say the current administration, wanted to put in place as one of their important policies.
And is there a typical profile for migrants that are trying to pass into the United States, specifically here in Arizona?
We see everything. I mean, in the last week, on both sides of the border, I've seen a combination of people from Mexico, Cuba, Guatemala, and Honduras. Back in the day, it was the majority of the population coming north of the border was from Mexico. Now you have migrants from all over Latin America, and I've heard stories from the authorities about how people from Asia are even trying to get to the United States through our border with Mexico. So that's a big change right there.
And Donald Trump has come under fire for separating families, for this zero tolerance policy. The idea perhaps is to dissuade other migrants from trying to come. Has this been effective? Does it work?
It's a good question. I'm not sure I have the answer. If I look at it through the eyes of the migrants and through the stories I've heard from being here, I can tell you that they come from such poverty and such misery that what can happen when they get here, whatever it is their feeling is, it can't be as bad as what we're leaving behind. Plus, the people they hire as guides are not going to want them to hear bad news about what's going on, because then they're not going to be as easy to persuade to sort of buy a ticket, so to speak, to go north. So I really don't know what the effect has been. I mean, I can see the effect when people cross and are told to stay in Mexico. I can see the effect when I'm working on the border, on the Mexican side of the border, and there are more migrants that I see and whose stories I hear. But as far as how much of a piece of important info that was in their hearts and minds before they left home, I don't really know.
And the family separation, is that anything that...
Same thing. It becomes a nightmare, an incredibly traumatic event when they're here. But there's two different mindsets. There's one mindset when you're in the middle of poverty in a place full of crime and you want to go. And then you've been gone and you get to a new place and there's another mindset. What is the balance? What's the deciding factor? If I'm in those shoes, what's better for me, staying there in the poverty and the crime, or risking something that may not be what I want when I get to the United States? That's giving me two real lousy choices. I don't know which one I would take.
Bob, thank you so much for your time and explanation and for being here and showing us the wall today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for coming.
If re-elected, U.S. President Donald Trump has vowed to continue his hard line against immigration. Meanwhile, Democratic candidate Joe Biden has positioned himself as the moral opposite, promising to undo as much as possible of Donald Trump's immigration agenda. Both candidates have made multiple stops on the campaign trail here in Arizona, a state that could decide the election. Well, that wraps it up for American Views. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned to France 24.